We have a very different question now, and the question is this, and this is sort of a general question about you. Many of your campaign materials were the same. Can you name one thing you would do in office that you feel or think would not be true of the other five? And I guess, what is that one quality or one skill or one thing that you would do that you perhaps feel the others might not be doing or wouldn't do? And we'll do it in this order. Actually, we'll start with you, Ms. Dalma. Then we'll go to Mr. Cabrera, Ms. Godfrey, Mr. Dauber, and Ms. Foster. So, again, campaign materials be the same. What can you name one thing you would do in office that you think is not true of the other candidates? And I guess it really comes to that question of what would you bring uniquely and do uniquely? Ms. Dalma.
So first I want to thank my fellow candidates, specifically Terry and Catherine, that have spent so much time working at PI, working at PTA. I think that those organizations in our school district are a huge, huge asset. I don't bring those hours of volunteering to the school district. What I bring to the school district is thousands and thousands of hours evaluating programs that work towards student achievement and systems where those programs work, school districts where those programs work. So the first thing that I would do differently is cross El Camino. I would cross El Camino. I would talk to the thought leaders that are leading education in our nation, in our world, and talk to them about innovation and bring it back home. I would talk to other school districts in our region that are doing phenomenal work with kids of color and socioeconomically disadvantaged, and I would bring it back home so we close the achievement gap. We know how to do it. We can make it happen. I would continuously connect again with knowledge in different countries and make sure that we are pushing the boundaries. We cannot rest in our laurels as a school district. I'm not happy enough that we're at the top 60. We need to make sure that 100% of our kids are reaching their social, emotional, and academic potential.
Thank you. Mr. Cabrera?
Yeah, the first thing you'll notice about my campaign materials is that they don't exactly exist. One is that I'm running as an individual. I don't have a lot of funds and money to buy. I'm also very much so into sustainability, and wanting people to look at the web, which is jcan.us/schoolboard. And in the context of some of the issues, if you do look at the website, which is my primary campaign material, is you'll see that there's two main pictures. One is really push for interactivity, wanting to see technology in online forums to be used directly on the community to be able to click and vote and make comments on actual proposals going in front of the board. The second is coding, and I feel in talking with and learning about what the leaders of our tech industry in this area in Silicon Valley are saying, and they are saying that we need to educate our students from early on with the skills for the 21st century economy, and that is learning how to code. I have really not had a job in my life where I wasn't working with engineers in some level. Like, you're giving feedback to engineers. They want to know how the apps are working. They want to know how the website can be improved. And so the more you know about what's happening on the back end of the engineers, the better. And so there's no way that as a school board we can just implement that, but we can start the process as being a cutting-edge, technologically driven school district to do research on what the feasibility of that is.
Thank you. Ms. Godfrey, same question.
Yes, thank you. So as Gina mentioned, I have spent a lot of time and hours doing PTA and PI kinds of things. I make no apology for that. But the unique skill set that I bring and what I would expect to do is, back to our very first question, the difference between the board and the superintendent. We have fine educators here and fine education leaders. Our job is to set policy, strategy, tone, manage the resources. So for me, my large-scale course skills are around finance, organizational development, with a subspecialty in turning around underperforming teams. Now that is not an issue here, but if it ever comes up, I'm prepared. So looking at our whole organization, where our resources are, if they're in the right place, if they're doing the right thing, if our our most important and skilled resources, which is the teachers have the right support they need. That's the start. Taking our centralized versus decentralized decision-making process and actually putting some structure around that, what decisions can be made centrally versus being made at the district level versus at the site levels. As long as the outcomes have been decided on, some decisions can be made at the site level. They can have blue chairs versus purple chairs. That's fine. So I think those large structural kinds of things that take that kind of thinking from a organizational design perspective and a finance perspective is what I bring. The hours of PTA and PI, those were helpful since I know my way to all the different schools and what they do, but that's not really my core skill.
Thank you. Mr. Dollar.
Well, the best evidence about what kind of board member I would be, I think, is the many, many hours I've spent in this room working on policy and bringing initiatives to the board backed with data and evidence and testimony from the students and parents who it would affect. I am really committed as a board member to getting things done, and to getting things done that demonstrably work for kids, because we've looked at the data and the evidence and the research around them. So, for example, on homework, I served on the district's homework committee after advocating that we should start it, and I worked closely with district staff, Dr. Charles Young, for example, to take this sometimes contentious subject and to bring to it a wealth of academic evidence and brain science that really led to a consensus on that committee around time guidelines and the purpose of homework for the first time in the district. So what I've demonstrated as a citizen and as a participant in policy discussions stretching back over years now is a willingness and an ability and a commitment to get real things done, to do that in a way that's informed by data and evidence, and to do it in a way that's collaborative and relies on outreach to all of the stakeholders that are involved in that decision.
Thank you. Ms. Foster, your comments?
So the question is interesting because it's got two parts. One is what I would uniquely bring, and what is what I would uniquely do. In terms of what I would uniquely bring, it is the combination of decades of work in policy, years and years of time spent working not only at the policy level, but actually at the program level, where the rubber hits the road in terms of how kids achieve and succeed in school. Running an education nonprofit, working side by side with community organizers in Philadelphia and Denver and Chicago and New Jersey, all trying to change their schools and make them better. That kind of on-the-ground experience combined with policy experience, combined with evaluation experience over 2 decades is something that I can bring to the school board and that I think would be incredibly valuable to the school board. That is, of course, combined with being a volunteer, so I know what it's like uniquely in our, so I know what it's like for students in our schools. But in terms of what I would do that is a little bit different is I am talking quite a bit about middle schools. What I'm hearing in our community is that middle schools are a place where we need to do more work on our vision, on what the kids are going to learn, how we're going to teach foreign language, how we're going to have smaller learning communities, how we're going to turn the curve on the achievement gap, and how we're going to create students who are inspired learners in high school and then beyond, because middle school is where things can sometimes fall apart.
Thank you. Appreciate that.